Hello there and welcome to the first tutorial of my channel. I will be going through a range of Unity2D things that will hopefully be useful, things that will hopefully come in useful to you as you make awesome games with this amazing free software. But enough of that, right? So what I'm doing today is what I do for 2D movement, 2D players, 2D characters that move. Right. This is the code that I use, and I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I think it's a great bit of code to use. Does mean you have to set up your keys individually, but that shouldn't be too bad. It shouldn't be too hard. So let's just get into it. So in the assets, so I'm down here, down the project tab at the bottom. In assets, I have just the folder of scenes, which contains our sample scene, which is what this is now, which is what this is. And I'm going to click back up to assets, and I'm going to create a couple of folders. I'm going to right click, go up to create, folder, and I'm going to name this one sprites. Oops, sprites. And then I'm going to right click again, go up to create, folder, I'm going to name this one scripts. The 3 S's. And then I'm going to go into my scripts, and I'm going to create a player controller script, and then I'm going to click off that because my thing does a weird thing, and then I double click on it, and then it'll open up Visual Studios. It will open up whatever you use for programming. Mine is Visual Studios. And now I will be going into, I'm not using add force, I just want to put that out now, I'm not using rigid body movement, but I will be referencing rigid body because I want the component to work on the sprite, on the player, on the character that we're creating. So if I just come down, and I'm going to do a private rigid body 2D, because we are in Unity2D. Player RB, and then I'm going to go into the start function and do player RB equals get component, and then rigid body 2D. I'm going to reference it. So we have now referenced the rigid body that will be in the components on our character in Unity editor. But let's work on the movement now. So if we start on, if we start on the void update, and we do an if statement, and then we're going to do a bracket, and we're going to do input dot get key, which is there, dot get key. Now the bracket, key code D, and then we're going to do some curly brackets and then press enter. So what this does is that this checks when the D key is being pressed, basically. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to do a transform dot translate as a vector to dot right times speed times time dot delta time, comma, space dot world. And then I will go up to here and do a public float speed. So this, oh, I spelled vector wrong. Vector, oops, vector, there we go. So what this does, I'm just going to quickly save it. So what this does is that it will, so when the D key is pressed, it will go right in the movement of vector 2. It will go right, and that will be times by the float speed that we will put in the Unity editor in the inspector window. It does it by time, and the space.world is its coordinates in the world. So that sort of keeps track, I think. So if we save this, like I just did a minute ago, go into here now, and go back into the Unity editor, and then we click off this, go into sprites, go into our sprites folder, right click, go up to create, go down, sprites, square, and then we will call this the player, or the character, or whatever you want, the protagonist maybe, I don't know. And then we're just going to drag this sprite into here and make it a game object. We have transform as its location, which is also what this is as well. It's its location, transform. And then we have the sprite renderer as well, which basically renders the sprite, makes it if you untick it, you make it invisible. If you tick it, you make it visible. As simple as that, really. And then you go into the rigid, and then you get a component, and then if you type into the search box rigid, you'll come across rigid body or rigid body 2D. You want the rigid body 2D because we are using Unity2D to make this 2D game. It only makes sense. And now, so this, when we give the player the script, the rigid body in the script will be referenced. No, the rigid body in the components in the inspector will be referenced here in the script, just as a safe measure. And you can also use this as a add force as well. So if you do like player RB and then like a bracket, and then you can put like speed or something, and then it will go in like a certain direction with the add force in with speed. But that also leaves a bit of drag as well, because it won't stop instantly. It will just sort of slow down, which isn't really the best movement, I don't think. So this is why I use this rather. It's more rigid, it's more real, I think. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And because we've used gravity, if we press the plus button now, it will just fall out of the world. So that means we also need to go down here again, press create, sprite, square, floor, call it floor. We're going to grab this, put it in there. We'll probably change its color, maybe. Go into the sprite renderer, change its color, maybe to like black, almost. Let's go red. And then we're going to change its scale to 10, just to give our guy a little bit of room to run around on. We also need to give this a box collider 2D, and we also need to give this one a box collider 2D, just so they acknowledge that each other, like that they're touching each other. We don't need to edit the collider because it automatically picks up on how big the box is already. If you import your own sprites, you might need to edit the collider. It does depend, but we don't need to edit it now. But if you want to edit it for some reason, you can just click on this button. When it's clicked, you can just zoom in, and you can click on one of these boxes here and just fiddle around with it. But we're just going to leave it like that for now. So we're going to go back onto the player, which we are on now, go into our scripts folder, put the player controller on here, and then now we can edit the speed in the inspector, because we called it a public float. This public makes it visible in the inspector. We don't really need this to be public because we can see it in the inspector already, sort of, so it's fine. So now we're going to just make the speed 6 or something, and then we're going to press play, and hopefully it will work. Yeah, look at that. It's quite rigid speed. Yeah, works. And you can do the exact same. So if you go in here and you copy, and you just go down a couple lines, and you do the if, you can change this to A, and then all you have to do is change this to left, and then that will pick up on the left and right, because we have already acknowledged these inputs. I will show you in a minute what I mean, but first let's just press play and test this out. So we have if I press the D key, we go right, press the A key, we go left, and it works perfectly. It's quite smooth, it's quite a nice smooth movement, I think. If we use the add force, like I said earlier, it would, if I went right, it would slow down and probably slide off the edge. But because this is a more of a rigid movement, we can control where the player goes more precisely, which is what I quite like. What I mean about the inputs that I mentioned earlier is that if you go to the top left and go to edit, scroll down or go down to the project settings and click input, you will find that we have axis already set up. And if you look onto the horizontal axis, we have left and right already set up in our positive and negative button. And yeah, and that's what we've referenced here as a reference. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps you in your movement of your Unity game. If you want more, or if you want to see more, make sure to leave some suggestions in the comments below and subscribe. So yeah.